The transport shuttle's engines whined to a stop, and Commander Dex Thorne felt his stomach clench with anticipation. Not the good kind, the kind that came before receiving news you didn't want to hear. He'd been dreading this moment since the ceasefire had been declared 3 months ago. "Commander Thorne," General Vasquez's voice crackled through the comm as Dex descended the ramp onto Station Omega 7. "Welcome back. Your service during the Galactic War has been exemplary." Dex straightened his uniform, the weight of too many medals pulling at his chest. "Thank you, sir. I'm ready for debriefing." "Actually, there's been a change of plans." Vasquez's smile was too wide, too practiced. "The Planetary Council has decided to honor our most distinguished veterans with special recognition. Follow me." They walked through the sterile corridors of the station, past other returning soldiers who looked just as hollow-eyed as Dex felt. The war had ended, but its ghosts still haunted every corner of their minds. The ceremonial hall buzzed with activity. Dex recognized several faces: commanders, captains, men and women who had fought beside him in the Outer Rim conflicts. They all wore the same expression of barely contained exhaustion mixed with relief. "Attention," Vasquez called out. "Today we honor those who gave everything for humanity's survival. As a token of gratitude, the Council has prepared special gifts." Dex's blood ran cold as a line of figures was escorted into the hall. Aliens. Zephyrians, to be precise. The very species they'd been fighting against for the past 4 years. Each one was restrained, their distinctive pale green skin and flowing hair making them instantly recognizable. "These captured nobles from the enemy faction will serve as living reminders of our victory," Vasquez announced. "Each of you will be assigned one as personal property, a reward for your sacrifice." The word property hit Dex like a plasma blast to the chest. Around him, some soldiers cheered, others looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. He watched in horror as his fellow veterans stepped forward to claim their prizes like they were pieces of equipment. "Commander Thorne," Vasquez called. "This is Kaya of House Zephyr, a former noble-class advisor. She's yours." Dex looked at the alien woman standing before him. Her red hair cascaded in waves down her shoulders, and her amber eyes held a mixture of defiance and resignation. She was beautiful, certainly, but more than that, she was clearly terrified despite her attempts to hide it. The restraints around her wrists were crude metal shackles that had obviously chafed her pale green skin raw. She stood straight, chin lifted in what he recognized as forced dignity, but he could see the slight tremor in her hands. "Sir," Dex said quietly, "I can't accept this." Vasquez's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? This is wrong." Dex stepped forward, ignoring the gasps from other soldiers. "These are sentient beings, not trophies. I won't participate in this." Before anyone could stop him, Dex reached for the restraints around Kaya's wrists. She flinched at first, then went very still as he worked to release the locks. "Commander, what are you doing?" Vasquez hissed. "What I should have done the moment I walked in here." The shackles fell to the floor with a metallic clang. Dex looked directly into Kaya's amber eyes. "You're free. You can leave. Go wherever you want. I won't stop you." Kaya stared at him, her expression shifting from confusion to something like wonder. She rubbed her freed wrists, never taking her eyes off his face. "Thorne, this is insubordination," Vasquez began. "Then court-martial me," Dex interrupted. "I've seen enough horror for one lifetime. I won't add to it." The hall had gone completely silent. Every eye was on them as Kaya took a step forward, then another. She could walk away right now, Dex realized. She could demand transport back to Zephyrian space and he would make sure she got it. Instead, she spoke one word in accented, but clear human standard. "Stay." Dex blinked. "What?" "I choose." "Stay," she repeated, her voice soft but firm. "With you." The simple words hung in the air between them, heavy with implications neither of them fully understood yet. But looking into her eyes, Dex saw something he hadn't expected. Hope. 3 weeks into their coexistence at remote outpost Delta 9, Dex had learned that patience was both a virtue and a necessity. The outpost, designed for a single occupant, felt cramped with two people who couldn't properly communicate beyond basic gestures and the few dozen human words Kaya had picked up. She'd claimed the small storage room as her space, fashioning a bed from supply crates and salvaged fabric. Dex had offered her the main quarters, but she'd firmly shaken her head, pointing to herself and then the smaller room. Even in her situation, she maintained boundaries, something he respected. Food, Kaya said carefully, holding up a ration, packed during their morning meal. It was one of her clearer pronunciations. Food, yes, Dex confirmed, then pointed to himself. I eat food. You eat food. She nodded enthusiastically, then launched into what sounded like a complex explanation in her native language, her hands moving expressively. Her voice had a musical quality, with tones that rose and fell like a song. When she finished, she looked at him expectantly. I'm sorry, he said gently. I don't understand. Frustration flickered across her features, but instead of giving up, she stood and moved to the wall panel he'd installed for her. Over the past week, she'd been creating intricate drawings with salvaged styluses, her way of communicating what words couldn't convey. This new drawing showed figures with pale green skin gathered around what looked like a feast. The detail was extraordinary. Even with crude tools, she'd managed to capture expressions of joy and community. Your people? Dex asked, pointing to the drawing. Yes, my people. She touched the drawing tenderly, then looked at him with those striking amber eyes. Family. The word hit him harder than expected. He'd lost his own family in the early raids, his parents, his sister Elena. But seeing the longing in Kaya's expression reminded him that she'd lost everything too, and she was stuck here with the enemy who'd taken it all away. I'm sorry, he said quietly. About your family. About the war. She studied his face for a long moment, then did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his cheek, her fingers cool against his skin. Sad, she said. You sad too. It wasn't a question. Somehow she'd seen through his stoic commander facade to the grief he carried. That evening, they established their first real routine. Dex showed her how to use the communications array to access the outpost's database. Her eyes lit up when she discovered the linguistic programs, and she dove into learning human standard with the intensity of someone who'd been starved for intellectual stimulation. Why? She asked him on their fourth week together, the word coming out clearly despite her accent. She was curled up in the common area's single chair, a tablet in her lap displaying language lessons. Why what? Why free me? Other humans. They keep their prizes. The word prizes came out with obvious distaste. Dex set down his maintenance tools and really looked at her. She wore clothes he'd replicated for her, simple pants and a tunic that complemented her unusual coloring. Her red hair was braided back practically, and she looked nothing like the terrified, shackled woman from the ceremony. Because you're not a prize, he said. You're a person, a living being with thoughts and feelings and rights. What they wanted me to do, it was wrong. She was quiet for so long he wondered if she'd understood. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. On Zephyria, we learn humans are monsters. They take, they destroy, they feel nothing. She looked up at him. But you... different. Not all humans are the same, Dex said carefully. Just like not all Zephyrians are the same, I imagine. No, she agreed. Some Zephyrians also monsters. Some start war, want power, hurt others. She paused. But some just want live in peace. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Kaya stood and moved to her drawings on the wall. She'd been adding to them daily, creating an entire gallery of her memories and thoughts. This, she said, pointing to a new drawing he hadn't seen before. It showed two figures, one clearly human, one clearly Zephyrian, sitting together under stars. This is hope? Dex moved closer to examine her artwork. The detail was incredible, but more than that, There was something peaceful about the scene she'd created. After months of war, violence, and death, she'd drawn something beautiful. "Yes," he said softly. "That's hope." She smiled then. The first, real smile he'd seen from her. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and less burdened. "Tomorrow," she said, "you teach me more words. I teach you my words. We understand better." "I'd like that," Dex replied and meant it. As they settled into their respective spaces for the night, Dex found himself looking forward to tomorrow in a way he hadn't since before the war began. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving, he was living. And in the small storage room that had become her sanctuary, Kaya lay awake thinking about the human who'd given her freedom, and then, even more surprisingly, given her kindness. The word hope echoed in her mind as she drifted off to sleep. 2 months had passed since Kaya's arrival, and the outpost had transformed into something neither of them had expected, a home. Their morning conversations now flowed in a mixture of languages, with Kaya's human standard improving daily and Dex attempting to wrap his tongue around basic Zephyrian phrases. "The supply transport brought something special," Dex announced, entering the common area with a small container. "I thought you might want to see this." Kaya looked up from her tablet where she'd been studying stellar cartography. Her amber eyes widened when she saw what he held, a small pouch of what looked like dark, oily seeds. "Lumara seeds," she breathed, reverting to her native language in her excitement before catching herself. "Where? How did you get these?" "I may have sent a few requests through some unofficial channels," Dex said, setting the container on the table. "A botanist friend owed me a favor from the war. I described them based on your drawings, and she managed to track some down from captured Zephyrian supply ships." Kaya's hands trembled slightly as she opened the container. The seeds were exactly as she described, dark purple, almost black, with an oily sheen that caught the light. "These are from home," she whispered. "They grow the most beautiful flowers, bright, blue with silver centers. And at night—" She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "At night they glow." "Show me," Dex said gently. Together they set up a small growing area in the unused section of the outpost. Kaya's knowledge of botany became apparent as she carefully prepared the soil mixture, explaining each step in her musical accent. "Lumara needs specific minerals," she said, adding compounds from the laboratory stores. "And they sing to each other. Their roots create network underground, like family." "They sing? Not with sound? With, how do you say, chemicals. They share nutrients, warn of danger, comfort each other when one is hurt." She pressed the seeds gently into the prepared soil, very much like Zephyrian families. As days passed, they tended the growing plants together. Dex found himself looking forward to these quiet moments, watching Kaya's face light up as the first green shoots appeared. She would murmur to the plants in Zephyrian, her voice taking on an almost musical quality. "What are you saying to them?" he asked one evening as they watered the now foot-tall saplings. "Old songs my mother taught me. Plants grow better with music, with love." She paused, then translated softly. "Grow strong, little ones. You are far from home, but you are not alone." The words hit Dex with unexpected force. "Like you," he said quietly. "Like me," she agreed, meeting his eyes. That night, Dex woke to the sound of quiet crying from Kaya's room. He lay still for a moment, unsure whether to intrude, but the soft, broken sounds pulled at something deep in his chest. "Kaya?" He knocked gently on her door. "Are you all right?" The crying stopped. "I am fine," came her muffled voice. "No, you're not." He leaned against the doorframe. "You don't have to talk about it, but I'm here if you need someone." After a long pause, the door slid open. Kaya stood there in the simple sleep clothes he'd replicated for her, her red hair loose around her shoulders, her face streaked with tears. "Bad dreams," she said simply. About home. About before. The war nightmares? She nodded. I see my city burning. I see my family. She couldn't finish the sentence. Without thinking, Dex reached out and gently touched her shoulder. She didn't pull away. I have them too. About the things I saw. The things I had to do. You were soldier. You had to fight. Doesn't make it easier to live with. He paused. Would you like some tea? Sometimes it helps me sleep. They sat together in the common area, sharing chamomile tea and quiet conversation. Kaya told him about her life before the war, her work as a cultural advisor, her love of art and music, her close relationship with her younger brother. And you? She asked. What was Commander Dex Thorne before the war? Just Dex, he said with a small smile. I was an engineer, actually. Designed atmospheric processors for colony worlds. I wanted to help build things, not destroy them. Why did you become soldier? His expression darkened. The Zephyrian raiders hit my home colony early in the war, killed my parents, my sister, Elena. I enlisted the next day. Kaya went very still. I am sorry, she whispered. My people, they caused you much pain. Some of your people, Dex corrected gently. Just like some of my people caused you pain. We're not responsible for what others do. They talked until the early hours, sharing memories and pain in the way that only two people who'd lost everything could understand. As dawn approached, exhaustion finally claimed them both. Dex, Kaya said, as they prepared to return to their rooms. Thank you for listening, for caring. Thank you for trusting me enough to share. She hesitated, then stepped closer. May I? She gestured vaguely, and he realized she was asking if she could touch him. He nodded, and she reached up to place her hands on either side of his face. Her palms were warm, her touch gentle. In my culture, this is how we say you are not alone, she whispered. The gesture was intimate but not sexual, a sharing of comfort and connection that transcended physical attraction. Dex felt something shift in his chest, a wall he'd built, around his heart beginning to crack. You're not alone either, he said softly. When she pulled away, they both felt the change between them. Trust had grown into something deeper, something that scared and thrilled them both. The next morning, they found their first Lumara flower had bloomed, bright blue with a silver center, just as Kaya had described. But it was that evening, when the flower began to glow with soft bioluminescence, that they realized they'd created something truly beautiful together. Standing in the gentle blue light, their hands almost touching as they admired their shared garden, both Dex and Kaya felt the walls between them continuing to fall. The telescope had been gathering dust in storage for months, a relic from the outpost's original scientific mission. But tonight, with Kaya curled up beside him on the observation deck, Dex was grateful he'd finally dragged it out. There, he said, adjusting the focus. That's Earth, my homeworld. Kaya leaned in to peer through the eyepiece, her shoulder pressing against his. 3 months of shared meals and conversations had made such casual contact natural, but Dex still felt a flutter in his chest at her nearness. It's blue, she said with wonder. Like the ocean in your pictures. Mostly water, yes. What about Zephyria? Can you show me? She straightened and pointed toward a different section of sky. There, the cluster that looks like a crown. Zephyria is the brightest star in the center. Dex adjusted the telescope, and together they found her homeworld. Tell me about it, he said softly. Red skies at sunset, purple mountains that touch. The clouds. Cities built into living trees that grow kilometers tall. Her voice took on a dreamy quality. The capital city where I lived, Velandra, it was built around a great tree called the Mother Root. My apartment was in the middle branches, and from my window I could see the singing gardens where the Lumara grew wild. It sounds beautiful. It was. She was quiet for a moment. before the war councils decided conquest was more important than beauty. They spent the evening mapping constellations, with Kaya sharing Zephyrian star lore, and Dex explaining human astronomy. The Lamara flowers in their garden glowed softly behind them, casting everything in gentle blue light. "In my culture," Kaya said as they lay back on the observation deck's cushioned floor, "we believe each star is the light of someone who loved so deeply that their heart continues to shine even after death." "That's beautiful," Dex murmured. They were lying close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "Do you think they're watching us?" "Perhaps. My mother used to say that love echoes across time and space, that it never truly dies." She turned her head to look at him. "Do you believe in love, Dex?" The question caught him off guard. In the starlight, her amber eyes seemed to glow with the same bioluminescence as their flowers. "I used to. Before the war, I thought I'd find someone, build a life together, but after seeing so much death, so much hate," he trailed off. "And now?" He met her gaze. "Now I think maybe I was waiting for the right person, someone who could understand the darkness and still choose to create light." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Kaya's breath caught and she reached out to trace her fingers along his jawline. "Dex," she whispered, "I need to tell you something. These months with you, they have been the happiest of my life. Even as a prisoner, even far from home, you have given me joy I never expected to feel again." "You're not a prisoner," he said firmly. "You never were, not with me." "I know. That is why—" She took a shaky breath. "That is why I love you." The confession hung in the air between them like a bridge neither could uncross. Dex felt his heart hammering against his ribs as he searched her face. "Kaya," he breathed, "I love you too." When he kissed her, it was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. She answered by deepening the kiss, her hands tangling in his hair, as weeks of growing attraction and emotional intimacy finally found physical expression. They broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "Are you sure?" he asked. "We can stop, we can take this slow." "I am sure," she said firmly. "I have never been more sure of anything." He helped her to her feet, and together they moved inside to his quarters. In the soft light of the Lumara flowers visible through the viewport, they undressed each other slowly, mapping the differences and similarities of their bodies with gentle touches. Kaya's skin was softer than human skin, with a subtle luminescence that became more pronounced when she was aroused. The pale green color was beautiful in the flower light, and Dex found himself tracing patterns across her shoulders and arms with reverent fingers. "You're incredible," he murmured against her throat. "As are you," she replied, her hands exploring the scars that marked his chest and back, reminders of battles fought and survived. When they came together, it was with the tenderness of two people who had found something precious and rare. They moved slowly, learning each other's rhythms, communicating in touches and whispered endearments in both their languages. Kaya's pleasure was different from what Dex had experienced with human women. Her skin glowed brighter as arousal built, and she made soft musical sounds that reminded him of her lullabies to the plants. When she climaxed, her entire body seemed to shimmer with bioluminescent waves, and the sight was so beautiful it pushed him over the edge with her. Afterward, they lay entwined, her head on his chest, both glowing with sweat and contentment. "In Zephyrian culture," she said drowsily, "when two people share their light like this, they are considered soul-bonded." Soul-bonded? Connected beyond physical form. Two hearts that beat in harmony. She looked up at him. "Is there a human equivalent?" Dex smiled, pressing a kiss to her hair. "We call it true love." "Then we are both," she decided. "Soul-bonded and truly in love." As they drifted off to sleep in each other's arms, the Lumara flowers pulsed gently outside their window, as if responding to the love that had finally bloomed between two hearts from different worlds. In the morning, they would face the reality of their situation, the cultural barriers, the political implications, the uncertainty of their future. But tonight, Under the light of distant stars and bioluminescent flowers, they had found something worth fighting for. 6 months had passed since that first night under the stars, and the outpost had become a sanctuary of peace and love that neither Dex nor Kaya had dared to imagine. Their morning routine now included tending their thriving Lumara garden together, the bioluminescent flowers having spread to cover an entire wall of the common area. "The transport will arrive soon," Dex said quietly. Watching Kaya braid her red hair in the elaborate style she'd taught him was traditional for Zephyrian bonding ceremonies, not that they could have one officially. "I know." Her voice was steady, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I can be to tell a panel of military brass that I'm in love with someone they consider enemy property." She turned to face him, her amber eyes fierce with determination. "I am not property, I am not enemy. I am Kaya of House Zephyr, cultural advisor and botanist, and I choose to be here with the man I love." The sound of engines announced the arrival of the transport. Through the viewport, they watched 3 figures disembark: General Vasquez, a woman in diplomatic robes Dex didn't recognize, and a stern-looking man in administrative uniform. "Remember," Dex said, taking her hands in his, "you don't have to. Go with them if you don't want to. I'll fight any order they give. And remember," she replied, standing on her toes to kiss him softly, "we are stronger together than apart." The meeting convened in the outpost's main conference room, with Kaya and Dex seated on one side of the table facing their visitors. "Commander Thorne," General Vasquez began without preamble, "it's come to our attention that you've developed an inappropriate attachment to your assigned asset." "Her name is Kaya," Dex said firmly. "And she's not an asset. She's a person, and she's free to make her own choices." "The Zephyrian War Prize program was designed to," the administrator began, but Kaya cut him off. "I am not a prize," she said, her accent lending gravity to her words. "I am a sentient being with rights, thoughts, and feelings. Your program is a violation of interstellar law regarding treatment of prisoners." The diplomat leaned forward with interest. "You speak human standard quite well. I am a cultural advisor by training. Languages are my specialty." Kaya's chin lifted proudly. "I also have degrees in xenobotany and interspecies relations from the University of Velandra." "Impressive credentials," the diplomat murmured, making notes on her tablet. "Which brings us to why we're here," Vasquez interjected. "The peace negotiations are entering their final phase. There's been a prisoner exchange agreement reached, and all Zephyrian captives are to be repatriated." Dex felt his heart stop. "You're taking her away." "That's the plan, yes. She'll be transported to the neutral station where the exchange will take place on." "No." Kaya's voice rang out clearly. "I refuse." The 3 officials stared at her in surprise. "You refuse?" The administrator sputtered. "You're being offered freedom. Return to your people." "I am already free," Kaya said firmly. "Commander Thorne freed me the day we met. And this is my people now." She reached over and took Dex's hand. "I choose to stay with the man I love." "This is highly irregular," Vasquez said. "The political implications are exactly why we need to set a precedent." The diplomat interrupted thoughtfully. "Ambassador Chen, Diplomatic Corps. I've been studying the cultural integration possibilities for post-war relations." She looked at Kaya with obvious interest. "You said you were a cultural advisor?" "Yes. Before the war, I worked to facilitate understanding between different Zephyrian ethnic groups, preventing conflicts through education and cultural exchange. Exactly the kind of expertise we'll need for ongoing human-Zephyrian relations." Ambassador Chen turned to Vasquez. "General, what if instead of treating this as a disciplinary issue, we treat it as an opportunity?" Dex squeezed Kaya's hand, hardly daring to hope. "The peace treaty includes provisions for cultural exchange programs," Chen continued. "Joint research initiatives, diplomatic liaisons, interspecies cooperation projects. Ms. Kaya's unique position, someone who has lived among humans, learned our language and customs while maintaining her own cultural identity, makes her invaluable. You're suggesting we legitimize this Relationship? Vasquez asked. I'm suggesting we recognize what they've already built here. Chen gestured to the room around them, where Lumara flowers glowed softly from their wall gardens. They've created exactly the kind of cooperation and understanding the peace treaty is meant to foster. The administrator looked skeptical. The legal precedent will show that love transcends politics, Kaya said firmly, and that two people from different worlds can choose to build something beautiful together. After hours of discussion, debate, and paperwork, they reached an agreement. Kaya would be granted special civilian status as a cultural liaison and botanical researcher. Her relationship with Dex would be officially recognized, and they would remain at the outpost to continue their research into Zephyrian human agricultural cooperation. As the transport departed, leaving them alone once again, Dex and Kaya stood in their garden, surrounded by the soft blue glow of the Lumara flowers. Did it? Dex said, still hardly believing it. We're officially together. We were always together, Kaya corrected, reaching up to touch his face in the gesture that had become their private symbol of connection. Now the rest of the galaxy knows it too. They had work ahead of them. Their research had attracted attention from both human and Zephyrian scientists, and they would soon be hosting delegations from both species. Their outpost would become a center for interspecies cooperation, a living example of what was possible when love overcame fear. But tonight, under the stars that had witnessed their first kiss, surrounded by flowers that bloomed because they had chosen to nurture beauty in the aftermath of war, Dex and Kaya held each other and planned their future. What should we plant next? Dex asked, looking at the empty sections of their ever-expanding garden. Something that needs both our worlds to thrive, Kaya said thoughtfully. A hybrid that can only exist when different species work together. Like us, he said, kissing her softly. Like us, she agreed. In the years that followed, their love story would become legend. The human commander and Zephyrian noble who proved that love could indeed rebuild what war had torn apart, one heart at a time. Their garden would grow to cover the entire outpost, a bioluminescent testament to the beauty that was possible when two people chose understanding over hatred, compassion over conquest. But that night, as they fell asleep in each other's arms, they were simply Dex and Kaya, two souls who had found their home in each other no matter how many light years away from the worlds of their birth.